So now is a time for questions and answer. May I see whether amongst our audience, if anyone has a question, you can put your question in the chat group so we can deliver to the speaker.
May I link to yesterday you were referring to the Macau as a learning city. And yesterday we discussed also how we could aim at a more enlightened tourism, see? And as you worked both on Macau as an intercultural genius, could you also give us some kind of inspiring lesson how also all art could be more experienced, because you are also expert in museum studies. And so following up on this idea, Macau as a learning city, could you share some recommendations based also on your research?
I think, first of all, that Macau continues to be a place in which there is a mix of cultures, languages. We spoke about the terms controversy, and so this could be an element that could be fostered, and also the presence of the religious traditions and the very strong Catholic presence is something that could be fostered. Can say that in this very moment in the Far East, there are 3 sides that are dealing with this process. So Macau, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And so I think that really with humility, with openness, with no idea of, say, putting out a sort of model, but Macau could really be a workshop for that. And so to establish new possibilities and as we said, looking forward. And this is the changing of mind, not looking back, but looking forward.
It's for people of sort of a mixed background, like myself, and also with the Taiwanese wife. Macau is giving you an impression of history and present at the making. There is a construction identity which is changing. Of course, it can have downfalls because of excessive anything. Anything could be excessive in such special cities. But some issues that Macau felt with tourism of a certain type, even Florence, Italy, or Venice, they all feel the same. It is the lack of sense or the lack of understanding of history. So there is something that politicians got to do, and this is not our choice. What scholars could contribute, especially guests from abroad, like us, whenever we might be in connection with the Macanese institutions, is to really open up a conversation also with our possible stakeholders. I'm using a business expression, who are the Chinese, no? So because I think it's necessary is to find that there is definitely on the part of some actors a multilateral attitude in talking about history, talking about education, so that I would say that the religious orders like the Jesuits or others, it's the same, the Franciscans that I know better, whenever they enter this huge universe of China, they have to feel part of a lineage which is in common. So Macau offers in the very streets reminders of this common lineage, and they need to be highlighted with all ways possible. Evidently, at an educational level, this is easier if there would be an easier access to some of the local cultural institutions from people coming from mainland China, joining the ranks of the university and cultural institutions of Macau. So to have a more, as I said, knowing at the making type of frame. And for now, everything digital is what we can do, experimenting with new way of disseminating information. And Stefan knows that we've been trying to imagine ways of doing that. We need to have that enough support of others to convey a result.
I have another idea, Stefan, about something listening to Francesco, that we could imagine, since we are really moving toward the new world for a lot of reasons, with the multilateral perspective that Francesco mentioned, I think that Macau could be the place from where a sort of new idea of humanism could start. Something like a new ratio studiorum, a new education for the new world. This could be something very, very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vossilla and Dr. Andreini, for your comments, suggestions. We have one more question. Well, actually 3 questions from Father Gassner here in the chat room. He's asking what about the transmission of modern science from Europe to China, right? Or I assume from outside, from other places to China, the transmission of modern science to China, and what is the relevance of the role of Macau in regard of this? So what is
this in the chat?
It's in the chat, yes. So should Father Gassner, if I might rephrase your question here, you correct me if I'm wrong.
We got it.
Oh, you got
Modern
it?
science from Europe to China. What relevance and role has Macau in this regard?
Right.
Allora, if from the angle of museum studies only, because I'm not a scientist, I don't even know how to calculate anything anymore, but especially about my own income. But I want to say that, of course, there is a tradition of Franciscan Dominicans, Jesuit, for example, scientists in astronomy, mathematicians, astronomers, physicians, that did a lot of work in these fields in the mainland. I'm just imagining, for example, the fact that at Wuhan, where COVID started, the first public hospital was dedicated to an Italian Franciscan. And now I don't remember the name. So in Macau, I'm sure there are some things that we can say, most of all because, for example, the Jesuits that I mentioned, Sambiase, Bagnone, they taught in Macau at the St. Paul's, and so it would be easy to analyze their work, the work of foreigners in science, and then have a discussion with modern museums about science, connecting ideas to the regard of the pandemic. This could be also stressing different ways to live in a world that has to do with science, where everybody's life, even the attitude.
I was wondering, we could also, Stefan, maybe establish good relationships with the Jesuits working at the Specola Vaticana, because this could be a very good subject of reflection, because also science is challenging a new mind. I'm not a scientist, but I was in a very interesting conference in Montepulciano last year dealing with Bellarmino and the Jesuits from the Specola. They came and we had a very so brilliant and smart discussion about the stature of science today. And so this could be another very interesting element.
I think that Father Gassner has touched upon a very important
also with the pandemic, because in Europe, for example, the pandemic has put in trouble the authority of science somehow. We are still facing a lot of doubts and questions, and so anyway, this could be a very interesting topic.
Right. Thank you.
One of the aspects of the new ratio.
Right. And I believe there's one more question from Father Segura, right?
Yes, I'm turning on microphone.
Hi.
I would say my point is an echo of what I'm listening to, because nowadays what is lacking, in my understanding, is depth of knowledge in history and culture as we are discussing. You are scholars discussing the point. I'm thinking more how to live it in our situation. And I can see, for instance, in the education field, which I was involved in, or even a lot in the social reality of Macau, there is no depth of knowledge of the questions you are presenting. This dialogue is not yet touched in terms of building up, I would say, a new way of thinking, looking to the future with the inspiration of the past. And I would say, for instance, like the politics is much more preoccupied, even if you want to talk about religious leaders and so on, is politics. And also the other side is economics. All those dimensions are talk a lot, preoccupied, and I would say they are scared when I stopped politics. If we don't overcome this attitude, we are not creative enough to go deeper, which is historical and cultural and social reality. So here there is a point. We are reflecting from the past and an inspiration, but we don't have guts to put this in depth in our days.
Right.
And politics, you can see priests frightened and always criticize the country, or be swallowed by casinos, which I believe is a big dragon. But you see, also the mosquitoes and the ants, they can disturb the dragon. Are we having that creativity inspired by in the past to create new ways of thinking and reacting within our society? And it seems to me, even the church has no depth and guts to face in this way, are too much defensive and always attacking the politicians and swallowed by the money. If we don't change that mentality, we don't get to the point of our forefathers.
Thank you, Father Segura. So we'll leave, we still have a few minutes left. We'll leave to our speakers for their feedback to Father Segura's comment.
See, Father Segura, we humbly follow your premise. I think both of us, we come from a mentality, at least, that sees the engagement as a necessary base or even a platform to jump higher. The issue that you have underline is personally what interests me as a lay person looking at history. So I mentioned Alfonso Bagnone and Sambiasi, they have an impeccable, come si dice, curriculum of being part of a martyrium of these engaged missionaries in China. Unfortunately, the term controversy within the Jesuits and the right controversy within the church has, in my humble opinion, obliterated this energetic leap forward launched by Michele Ruggeri and Alessandro Valignano and Matteo Ricci, all from different standing points. But if we are to look for forerunners, let's look at those forerunners who had troubles in working with bigger institutions, even in China and Roma at the same time. So unfortunately, you know, Roma and the mission were not always consistent, as you know better than we do. But now the consistency, I think it is also on a local, and it needs to be found even at the local level between confreres. And that would set an example for the believers or for people like me who have troubles with elements of theology. So what you said, this engagement, this courage, the bravery can be maintained also in an Ignatian way of constant discernment to find, to correct even the attempt.
I agree totally. This could be also bravery, would also be introducing, focusing topics that might be, let's say, that you mentioned creativity, means looking for topics that could be really provocative in a positive way, in a positive sense. And this is our job.
See, Father Nicholas, if you remember, the Superior General of the Jesuits in, I think, 2013 or something, maybe 2012, wrote a letter to the American universities striving for teachers to find creativity in teaching, but also in a better involvement or bridge between society and culture to the benefit of the mission.
Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for the discussion and for thank you for participation and discussion on this topic on the Western resources for dialogue. So here I would end this session with a great thank you and a great applause to our speakers.